All right, hey, what's up, guys? We have Andre here. He is a blackjack card counter. How's it going, Andre?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. And so, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into card counting?
Yeah, so I got into card counting in about the last year. I used to be a slot addict, and then one time I dragged my friend to a casino and he brought me to the blackjack table. And I eventually started learning basic strategy and kind of watched a lot of YouTube videos about it and eventually got into card counting. So between, I want to say, January to March this year, I started learning about it. And by April, I was an AP. And for a while, I was kind of making most of my income from it. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell.
Okay, and about how much were you making from it?
Um, at my peak, I was probably generating an EV of about $100 an hour.
Oh, damn. So why have
Yeah.
you stopped?
So my fiance, she's not really supportive of it. She's
Oh, damn.
she yeah, it's kind of a long story, but she's just like kind of against it. She doesn't really care that it brings in money. She thinks that I can make money other ways, and we went back and forth for a long time, but for now I'm just kind of giving it up. But we are planning to do an annual trip every year as a compromise, because before she was saying that she'd be okay with me playing like once a month for only an hour. And as we all know, if you're a card counter, it's not gonna be worth only going 1 hour a month. So
Yeah. Yeah, damn, man. I mean, that's a bummer if you were making 100 an hour. I don't know, man.
yeah,
I'd have to reconsider things. But so you're 25, you live in Washington, right?
yeah.
We're in Washington.
Right now I'm in Federal Way.
Okay. I don't know where
Yeah.
that is, but near
Oh,
Seattle
okay.
or
Yeah. Do you know any other city besides Tacoma? Or
well, I don't even know it that well. I mean, I know Tacoma. I've heard of Tacoma, but is
okay,
it
yeah, I'm a bit between Tacoma and Seattle.
okay? Okay. And what casinos do you play up there at? Or where are
Oh,
you playing at?
geez. I don't know if I want to give away my secrets. Well, I mean, I think everyone knows at this point in the Pacific Northwest. So the casino I played at the most was Emerald Queen Casino. Has one of the best games in the country, I would say. It's got a good double deck game, 25 minimum, double after split, surrender. Uh, Basically all the good rules except for resplit aces. It doesn't have that. But yeah, and they're pretty tolerant until they're not, because they would let you play for a while, but then they just drop a trespass on people. But somehow I managed to get like 200 hours there and still never blew my cover there at all.
Yeah, I mean, so are you pretty smart to begin with? I mean, it doesn't sound like you were doing this that long. Like you've only been
Yeah,
doing this year and then you've already stopped, right? So it's been less than a
yeah,
year.
yeah. I got in a lot of hours when I first started playing, because for a while it wasn't really working that much. And so I was able to just generate EV for my income. And then I got busy, and then my girl started not liking me playing. But yeah, EQC was the place I played at the most. It was a
Okay. Okay, is that like a Indian casino?
Yeah, yeah. Almost all the casinos here are tribal, but like any casino with a slot machine, they're all tribal. But there are some card rooms that are commercial. But most of the good games are tribal, because usually the penetration is bad on the commercial places.
What do you mean by the penetration? Is that like where they cut the cards or whatever?
Yeah, where
Or
they cut off the card. Yeah,
okay.
usually at like a lot of the, well, I guess depends on which casino you go to, but like I'd say like a EQC, I'd get good penetration. But like if I went to a commercial place, most dealers will only give like maybe 75% penetration.
Okay, and
And
what do you mean? What do you mean
yeah,
by commercial? Because it's illegal in Washington, right? Isn't it gambling illegal
gambling
in Washington?
gambling is legal in Washington, but like only the lottery and card rooms. But slot machines are legal on tribal land. But like the only gambling you're going to see outside tribal casinos is going to be the lottery and poker and some table games like blackjack and maybe Spanish 21.
So they do have blackjack besides any casinos in Washington.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but it's only certain games are legal there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No machines are allowed outside of tribes.
Okay. And did you ever have any luck at machines, slot machines? I mean, I know there's no beating those, right? Pretty much.
There are ways to beat slot machines, but not in Washington because most of the advantage slots, the tribal casinos would put in a different kind of software to make it so that they weren't advantageous at all, except for like one slot machine.
Well, how would they even be advantageous? The slots, like, how would you beat them?
So there's like a lot of games where like like a lot of slot machines, they have a wild symbol, and that makes like, so let's say there's like this one game called Ocean Magic by IGT, and so usually most of them is like a really long slot machine, but some of them was like a regular 3x5, but there'd be like this bubble. It'd start off on the bottom of the screen, and each time you spun it, it would go up by one. And if there was a special symbol that landed on top of it, it would expand the bubble and make everything around the bubble a wild symbol. So that would be pretty worth playing, depending on how big the bet was and how much bankroll you got. But
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
but you said that you can't beat that in Washington, right? Because
No,
no,
not in
okay,
Washington. There's not really
okay,
many advantage play slots. You'll find a lot of those in Vegas.
okay. And then what about
Yeah.
your real? Do you have a regular job?
Yeah, I'm in the army.
Oh, you're in the army,
Yeah.
like currently.
Yeah, right now.
Okay, so what does that mean? Are you, or like you're actually okay? You're actually in the army.
Yeah. I'm a
Okay,
reserve soldier, but I'm working full time at the moment.
okay. So you're actually like on a base there in Washington.
Yeah, at Fort Lewis.
Okay, okay. Are you from Washington?
Yeah, I grew up here.
Okay, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So do you play poker too?
I have a buddy that I play poker with, but I'm not really good at it. Like
Okay.
I'll go to like a couple tournaments. I've only been to like 3 or 4 at this point. But
Okay, we'll just stick to blackjack then. So starting
yeah.
with blackjack, how did you get your start? And then also how did you build up a bankroll? Because what's your minimum bet that you were doing?
At my peak, I was doing $25 minimum.
Okay, so yeah, how did you get started? How did you learn? I had one other guy, but this isn't like a blackjack podcast. So I had one other guy on talking about it. I play poker, so I'm not like a blackjack expert or anything.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Oh, so you don't know a whole lot about blackjack?
no, I mean I've
Well,
played before. I know how to play by the book, and I was
okay.
playing for a while just by the book. But as you know, like you still lose 1% or whatever playing by the
Yeah,
book.
like
So
0.5% on the average game.
yeah, so I never was card counting, but I've wanted to learn, and I play poker a good amount. So any type of edge that I can get in the casino, I'll obviously try to
Yeah.
take advantage of. But so I was talking to him, and he didn't really explain necessarily how he did it. But so yeah, one, how did you get into it? And then also, have you been kicked out? You said there was some trespassing at one casino. Have you had any crazy stories where you got kicked out or anything?
I've only been backed off twice, which is kind of impressive for the 7 months I played. 6, or I don't know how many months I played exactly. I guess I started in April or March, but yeah, so yeah, I've never been trespassed. I've just only been asked to get kicked out. So my first back off was in Vegas at casino called El Cortez. It's kind of funny because I guess it's kind of like a practical joke to tell new counters that, oh, El Cortez is the best casino you can go to. But you know how most casinos, when they do blackjack, they have multiple decks, right? Well, El Cortez has
Yeah.
a single deck game, and the less cards there are, the better your odds are of winning. So your edge is a whole lot significant. So I go to El Cortez, and the count starts getting high, and I raise my bets, and then right away the pit boss comes to me and he just tells me, "Hey, no more blackjack for you. Just color up now." And it just happened so quickly. I was just like, "What the hell happened?" But so colored up, I was down $600. That's what shocked me. I didn't think I'd be backed off for being down. But it feels like, from what I've heard from back offs, is that they usually back you off when you're down more
I
than up.
wonder why that is.
I think it's because casinos, that they realize that you're counting. I think their thought process behind it is, if you're down and they know you're counting, then they're not going to want you to get that money back.
Okay, I was also thinking maybe it would be a little bit easier to get you out of there. Like if you're down, you're just kind of like, fuck it, I'll leave. But if you're up, you're like gonna be like, no, I want to stay. Like,
Yeah.
something like that.
Right. Yeah, well, it's kind of, if there's other people there, it's easier to kind of kick people out when they're up, because other players might be like, oh, like he's counting. Yeah, some people don't like counters. They're like, oh yeah, he deserves it. He's cheating the system. But if you're up and you get kicked out, that happens. But let's say if you're down like a few $100 and you get backed off, and all the other players are just kind of confused. They're like, I'm also down, but he's down, and why is he getting kicked out? Like, he's losing money. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So you took a trip down to Vegas to go to this El Cortez.
Yeah.
And where is El Cortez? Is it kind of like off the strip?
It's in Fremont. So downtown Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it
Vegas.
really was it an actual practical joke, or is it really a good casino for counting as long as you don't get kicked out?
It's not a good casino to count unless if you have a really good cover. But yeah, they're notorious for backing people off.
So it really was somebody that kind of like playing a trick on you to go there?
Yeah, like I think like people aren't lying when they say it's legitimately a good place to count for Vegas, at least. But also, you're not going to get that much time in, so it's not worth walking or driving all the way down to El Cortez just to get kicked out within 5 minutes of playing.
Yeah. Well, I have heard that some of the smaller casinos are better, at least I think it's mainly for slots, probably because they're like, quote unquote, like percentages are higher because they want more people to come. This is like what my dad told me, but he plays slots, and so he's into like going to these like smaller ones. But it's like,
yeah, I think you can in Vegas, you can look up their payback percentage at each casino. So they usually have to submit some kind of report to the government. And so they have to like submit all this data, and then I don't know if it's always public, but you can always ask the casino. But I know that the higher denominations, so like if you play like a penny slot, you're not going to get as good of odds as like a dollar machine, because because you're betting more, so they're more willing to give you that better advantage, or at least less of an advantage for the house, I should say, because you're still kind of giving them that money at the same rate or even more. But
And then
yeah.
also, like, if you max bet, it's better for slots than if you don't max bet. But
Usually, if the slot machine tells you that you have better odds at max bet, then yeah, but the bet doesn't always necessarily mean that you're gonna do good unless if it tells you.
yeah. So that El Cortez trip, did you end up going to another casino to play, or what did you end up doing?
Yeah, so this was back in April, so pretty early on in my career. So I just basically started figuring out how to be a more efficient counter at this time. Before I was kind of a bit sloppy, but by the time I got to this Vegas trip, I got there. So I went down to Vegas with my mom, and so I was waiting on my mom, and I decided, hey, let me just play this penny slot machine. And so I'm just like spinning $2.50, not that much money, but then I land a $4,800 jackpot. So all of a sudden I got all this extra bankroll. I shouldn't have gotten it. I only put in $100 and I get $4,800. I already bought like a few $1,000s with me. So like I basically doubled my bankroll. But even like $2,000, that's not that much money for a card counter. But that's how much I brought for that trip. And so I guess one thing I should mention here is that a lot of the blackjack tables in the strip in Vegas are starting to get worse for counters, because when you get a blackjack, it normally pays 3-2 when you get that natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they started changing the ratio to 6-5.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they had the 6-5 tables, and I sat at one so that my risk wasn't that high. But then I didn't realize that it was paid 6-2 because I didn't see anything on the table that said that. So I get my first blackjack and I got a $10 bet and I only get like $12, and I'm just like, really? Like that's it? Like, where's the good table? And so the guy points over to the other side of the casino and he tells me there's a $15 table over there that pays 3-2. So I'm like, okay, sweet. I got this. And
And
so
where was this at?
oh, this was at Park MGM.
Okay, so was this after the El Cortez thing? You didn't go here?
This was at the beginning of my Vegas trip.
Okay.
Yeah. So El Cortez happened the next day. So go back to Park MGM. I sit at the $15 table, and this dealer just keeps asking me for tips, and he's starting to piss me off. I'm like, I don't want to tip you now. If I'm going to tip you, I'm going to do it at the end of my session. And he's just like banging his tip jar at or not the tip, the box that they hang at the table. He's just going like, and then it's like, he's like, hey, you better pay me.
Oh,
And I said,
damn.
hey, how about I go to a different table, and I see there's not really any other games, but then I look at there's a high limit room, and I got the $4,800. So I'm like, I go in, there's like no one in there. I'm like, this is perfect. Like I can just play heads up with the dealer, get all this EV in. And I sit down and I buy it for $1,000, and then I look at the minimum, the $100 for the minimum. And I'm like, okay, like I just got this jackpot. Like, what's $1,000 gonna do? Like, I can just go back to the lower limit tables. But it was a really good game. It had surrender offered. So do you understand what surrender is?
I'll take advantage of surrender whenever I can.
Yeah. So I didn't know surrender deviations necessarily, but I knew to surrender 16s against 10 always. But I think I surrendered too much, but I ended up making like $7,000 from this session. And like, I still wasn't the perfect counter at this time. I was still pretty new, but like, I still knew how to like convert the true bets and like most of the illustrious 18 deviations, and I ended up making 7 grand. And then I was like, sweet, like I got all this money to just like kick Vegas ass. But then so the next day I show up at El Cortez. It took me like 2 hours to find the casino because I was looking on Google Maps, like El Cortez is this way, but like I keep getting taken to the wrong street. So, and then I get kicked out within 5 minutes. So I go down the street to Stratosphere, and then I end up losing more money there. So I kind of had a little bit of a losing streak by the end of uh my Vegas trip, but my profit for that whole trip was like $6,000, which isn't bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at
How
all.
how long were you there for? A couple days?
Yeah, just like 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And most of the money you won was from that high limit room. How long did you play
Yeah.
for overall?
That high limit room, I made that money, like most of that money in like 1 hour.
Damn. So I mean,
Yeah.
so it probably really wasn't about the card counting. It was probably just more luck, right? In that session.
Yeah, it was really good variance. Cause like
Yeah.
I know for sure I wasn't playing perfect. And like I was probably surrendering way more than I should have. But like I just like it just worked out for me that like it just kind of landed in my lap. It just kind of came easily.
Yeah.
But
And so
yeah,
you were betting a minimum of 100 a hand in that high limit
Yeah.
room. And then were you going up to like 200 to 300 or how are you
yeah,
differing your
yeah,
bets?
yeah. So that first session I played in that high limit room, I had a max bet of $400 on one hand. This is before I started playing on two hands. I thought one hand was better at the time. But so I was at a high $400 hand, and then I had to buy the insurance because in basic strategy you don't ever buy insurance, but when you're counting cards, when the count gets high enough, you do buy insurance. And so I had $400 out and lost the insurance, and then I busted my hand trying to beat the dealer's ace, and I lost $600. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm up a significant amount of money. People don't even make this much money in 2 months sometimes. So like, I'm just gonna take this money and leave.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how does the insurance? I just never take insurance. How does the insurance work again? Like if they have an ace, you can buy insurance, and then if they, how does it work again? If you can explain that.
Yeah. So insurance. So you can buy insurance to up to half of your bet. And if you got two hands of the same bet, then it's basically like a third bet and you just buy it for both of them. But so if you buy the insurance and the dealer has a 10 underneath the ace, so if they got a blackjack, then you basically break even. It's a push for you. But if you don't win the insurance, then you lose half of your bet already.
Okay, so if they have the blackjack, they have the ace 10, then what was it again? Sorry.
Yeah. So if they do have a blackjack, then you get
this always throws me off for some reason.
Yeah, so let me try to explain this in numbers. So if you got $10 and the dealer asks for insurance and you buy it, so you put $5 at the side bet. So you'll see where it says insurance pays 2 to 1. It's like a arc, and you put it in the arc. And so if the dealer does have a blackjack, then the dealer's gonna give you back $15. So you put a total of $15 on the table, and you get back $15.
So you break even.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then if you don't buy the insurance and the dealer has it, then you're gonna be down $10. bucks, and then if you buy the insurance and the dealer doesn't have the blackjack, then you're going to be down $5 from the start.
Okay. And let's see here. Yeah, I have some crazy Vegas stories that, like, one of them, I mean, I shouldn't even go into, but like, well, for one, the last time that I like when I play blackjack, I like to play like really low stakes. So the last time, or one of the times that I went there, and I normally play poker, but like after poker, I'll go play blackjack. And so at the one of the times I went there, I ended up going to Circus because they had $3 minimum bet.
Oh,
And
wow.
I actually was doing, I do the, it's stupid, I know, and it doesn't work, but I did like I had this like variation of the martingale betting thing where like every time I lose, I'll double my bet, but I'll only do that like 3 times. But there I feel like because the bet was so low, I was able to go like 3, 6, 9, 12 or whatever, 3, 6. I guess you double it. So 3, 6, 12, 24, whatever.
Right.
But I ended up doing pretty good. I felt like it was because I had like more breathing room with the betting. I don't know. But I've had some crazy experiences there in general that I'm probably just better off not even going into. But
Yeah.
so as far as you go though, or so one thing I wanted to go over with the last guy was exactly how to card count. And we didn't go over that. So if you can try to explain in the simplest way how to do it, and then also how hard is it? Like, for one, it sounds like you learned pretty quickly. I mean, if you've learned literally this year and then you were doing it this year, do you have to be like, are you pretty good with math? Are you pretty good with, even if not math, like just keeping numbers in your head or whatever? Like, and then also how to do it. Yeah.
Right. So if you passed 4th grade, you should be able to count cards. No, it's really as easy as 4th grade math because it's the most that you do in terms of math.
Yeah, but it's hard to memorize it, right?
Right. So I got a handy dandy bunch of cards right here. Right. So let's say
You can
this
literally
is
just show me how to do it then, with
yeah.
the cards. Okay.
Right. Right. So every single so let me so the high cards, right, is 10s and aces. Those are the good numbers. We card counters love that, right? But every time a 10 or ace comes out, that lowers the card counter's edge, right? And then so there's other numbers that raise your edge, right? Like, let's say if like a bunch of 6s are dealt, then your edge is gonna go up. And there's many different kinds of counting systems, but the most common one that card counters will use is going to be the high-low system, because it's pretty easy to remember. It's easy to use when you're doing teams. Oh, that's my cat. But it's pretty easy. Like it's the so the numbers that are going to raise your edge in the high-low system is 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So each one of those numbers that come out, you're going to start what's called a running count. And for each one of those cards, your count goes up +1. And then 7, 8, and 9 in the high-low system is just 0. You don't account for those. Those don't mean anything to you in terms of your running count. And then all the 10s and aces, that's going to be -1. So what you do, let's say like I'm playing on 2 decks, right? So this is a 2-deck shoe and my running count is 2. Well, I got about 2 decks left. I divide my running count of 2 by 2 decks remaining, then that's going to give me a true 1, right? And if my running count was at 4, then I'd have a true 2. And so the reason for having a true count, it's what gives you the information that you need for what's called a deviation. So, like playing by the book, right? A basic strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what deviations do is that you play beyond basic strategy, and this is what starts to give counters their edge. But what also gives the counters their edge is that when you use a true count, for every true count that goes up, you start adding in more money. So let's say like I have a minimum bet of $10. True count goes to 1, then I'm going to start betting $20. In most counters, when it gets to a true 2, they start playing with 2 hands if the table will let them. Because some casinos, they won't let you in the middle of the shoe go to 2 hands, but you can start off on 2 hands. But other casinos, they will let you move back and forth between 2 and 1 hands. It just depends on the table rules. But yeah, so it's called a bet. That's called a bet spread. So the true count is what determines your bet spread. And so about each true count that you get is an extra 0.5% edge for you. So at a true 1, you're at a break-even game essentially. And then true 2 is when you start gaining the edge over the casino. And that's why you would go to 2 hands, because now all of a sudden I got 2 hands that have an advantage over the casino. And some people, they can go to 3 hands, but that's only if their max bet is above the table max. So they just go to 3 hands. But most people don't go to 3 hands unless if they got a really big bankroll.
Okay, yeah, that already confused me. I think I get confused more by kind of like the words, I guess, than the math, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
but I think it's the type of thing where I would probably just have to practice. So in terms of practicing, how did you practice? Did you use like an app, or do you just like actually manually do it? Or
Yeah, so how I first learned, like I learned basic strategy first, and that honestly that took me a really long time to remember compared to most people, because most people, they memorize it pretty quickly. It took me a pretty long time to get to learn it. But so I started off with like online trainers with basic strategy, and then there's apps you can get. There's a one from Blackjack Apprenticeship on the, I think it's on the Play Store and the Apple Store.
yeah,
You can
I
get
think
on
the
your
last
phone.
guy said. I think the last guy sent me the Blackjack Apprenticeship one.
Yeah.
It's like
So
$5, right?
yeah, so you can do just basic strategy on that, and then you can turn on the deviations, and you have an option to toggle where it tells you the true count, so that you can just practice the like remembering deviations, and then after that you can hide the true count, and you can do the true count in your head, and it shows how many decks are left.
Okay,
But
and one thing that
yeah,
okay, and then one thing that makes it hard too is the more decks you have, the more like division you have to do, right? So you were saying with 2 decks, you only have to divide by 2, but if you
yeah,
get like 6 decks, then you have to divide by 6, and that was the part that kind
yeah,
of that
yeah,
that part threw me off. But then also, I think obviously I think I could do the math, but it was like the remembering of everything, like that's
yeah,
remembering numbers in my head and like keeping them there, but I get distracted.
yeah.
You know what I
It
mean?
takes a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I, so yeah, if you go to a casino, like I live, I don't know if you know, if you've ever been, or if you know like Southern California casinos, like there's like Morongo, Pachanga. Um, do you know those casinos?
I've heard of those casinos.
Yeah. So if I go to one of those, are they? I feel like they have like 6 decks. Would do you know if the normal is what like the normal would be?
So most casinos, for especially low limit or low stakes, they're probably gonna do 6 decks or even 8 decks sometimes, which really sucks. I'll settle for a 6 deck game, but like 8 decks is just kind of a pain in the ass. Because yeah,
And also, the last guy told me he'll never play 6 to 5 instead of 3 to 2.
oh,
Right? Is that
right.
true? Like, should you never play 6 6 5 for
Yeah, you
blackjack?
should. you should never play 6 to 5 because that sends a really bad message to casinos because the more people that play at 6 to 5 tables, the more that tells casinos like, hey, like these people don't really care about like how much a blackjack will pay. And then that's going to become the new normal. That's like kind of like how blackjack used to stand the dealer used to always stand on soft 17, but now if they have a soft 17 they hit it on most tables. So it's kind of
Yeah, and
like,
so which one's better for that? It's better if they stay on soft 17 than hit on
yeah,
soft 17.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you know how people say that 17 is a good number when you're like playing by the book.
What do you mean? Like,
Okay, or maybe I shouldn't say like that. Like most people, like when you sit at the table, they'll say, "Oh, 17 is a good number." It actually isn't. It actually isn't a good number.
you mean 17 is a good number for you to have, or for them to have, for the dealer to have, or for you to have?
It's good for you if the dealer has. Well, I guess it depends on what you have, but 17 in general is not actually a winning number.
Well,
You either
soft 17 is good, right? Like if you have like a6, then that's good, right?
it's
Or
well if you
a7.
have it. If you have a soft 17, you're either going to always want to hit it or double it, depending on what the dealer has, because you're not going to win that much with a 17.
Yeah, I know with soft 17, like a6 or a7. Well, one thing that confuses people with the book is I'll double with a7 against like 3 through, if they have 3 through 6. And a lot of the times the people at the table are like, what are you doing? Why are you
Right.
doubling your
Yeah.
18? And it's like, well, that's what you're
Yeah.
supposed to do. So like they
Right. Yeah.
think, oh, like
Exactly.
just stay on 18, but it's like, no, doubling is better.
Right.
Um, I think in general, I think it's the fact that it's soft 16 or 17 is good, because then you have multiple runs. Like you could
Yeah.
you
You
could
can
just
go
get to
many
20
different
or
ways.
21, or you could get to like, I guess 12 or 13 and restart. I don't know. But anyways,
Yeah.
I'm just talking about by the book. I don't know about card counting. But so the other guy also brought up like hole carding. Do you know about hole carding at all?
Yeah. I know a little bit about that.
Have
Yeah.
you done that, or any other ways of winning that besides card counting?
I kind of had an opportunity one time to hold card, but I fucked up. I I was like, I saw that the dealer had a 18 and I think I had like a 14 and a 16, and I tried to beat it and the count was high. So I should have just she's my cat. But I should have, God, this cat loves me. But yeah, I should have just like, since surrender was available, I should have just surrendered my 16 and tried to hit my 14, but instead I just like tried beating the dealer on both, and I ended up busting both my hands.
Okay, so what was the situation on that one again?
Yeah, so the dealer, so you know how they put the whole card underneath. Well, the dealer went to go put it underneath the exposed card, but she ended up accidentally like flipping over, and I saw 8 show. And then so like normally, like if a dealer like accidentally flips over a card, they just make that the top card if they didn't show the other card. But she accidentally showed both cards, but I made it look like I didn't see anything. And she just like kind of looked around. She's like, okay, he didn't see it, but I definitely saw it. But I still made the wrong decision at that point because I was just so excited to get the whole card because that was my first time doing a whole card strategy.
So you thought because she showed the 8, it was better for you to hit, since now there's less high cards. Is that like the thinking behind it?
Yeah, well, like there was, I still, yeah, there's like more tens than small numbers for sure. But like I thought, like since I saw the whole card, like I could probably have a better chance of winning instead of just surrendering it.
So what did you end up doing? What did you have? 15, 16, and they
Yeah,
had,
I had like a 16 and a 14.
and then they had what?
Yeah, so I think I had So it was a this game was a double deck game. In most double deck games, it's face down. So when you're doing two hands, you can only look at the first hand before, then you had to make a decision on it before you go to the other hand. And so my first one, it was a 16. So that one was the one with the 16. And I was just like, oh, this like let me just try to beat it. And I busted it. And I was like, okay, let me go to this 14. And then hit it. And then busted that one too. I think it was okay to hit the 14, but the 16, I should have just surrendered it.
And what did they have? A 10?
Yeah, they had a 10 and an 8. But I think the 10 was on top.
Yeah, it seems like some of the okay, so they were showing the 10, but they had an 8 below.
Yeah.
And were you saying this was one of those games where both of your cards were down, face down?
Yeah,
Have you ever
yeah.
How do those work?
At one at a time. What was that?
What's like why do they have, because I've played those games before and I remember not liking it. Like why do they do it that way? Why do they have both of them down like that sometimes?
It makes it, I think it's to make it harder for counters.
Okay. So yeah, that makes it harder for you to count, right? So how does that affect your counting if you can't even count other players like face up cards?
Well, so what happens it's called in a pitch game. So they they throw it to you, and it's called a pitch game. But so what they do is like if like another player busts and they're before you, they have to show their cards. And so you can count those cards up real quick. You can just like glance over, oh, they had a 6, 10, 8. Okay, that add nothing. And then, oh, this player had a 2, 2, 2, 5, 6. Okay, add 4. Something like that. But yeah, but if you're first, like you just have to go off of what you know. And then you just wait for everyone at the table to be done and the dealer to show their cards. And that's when you're gonna do the count and then adjust your bet according to the count.
Okay, so you probably have to, that's another part of it that I think would be hard for me, is you probably have to get to a point where like you automatically just notate in your head if it's 2 through 4. Mm-hmm. So it's 2 through 4 is good for you or bad for you? That's if they show a 2 through a 4.
It's usually good for you if they're showing a 2 through 4
or low cards
2 through
in general.
6.
2 through 6.
2 through 6 is good for the player normally, but it depends on the count. So like let's say for example in basic strategy you would never hit a 12 against a 4, but if the count is negative at all in any scenario that it's negative, you're gonna hit it.
So, okay, because you want more. Ideally, a good count is when there's more 10s in the deck, right? Because that's more likely for them to bust, right?
Yeah, it's more likely for them to bust. So the reason why it's good for you is because dealer's more likely to bust. Your double downs are going to be more effective. You're more likely to get a blackjack. And when the count gets really high, so you know how you never split 10s in basic strategy?
Yeah.
So a card counter will split 10s at a high enough count against the right numbers.
Okay. And then also, what about the what about the like tips? You mentioned earlier that like you were going to tip the guy until the end. So do you usually wait until the end to see how much you've won or lost and then you'll tip them, or how does your tipping usually go?
So I'm kind of a sucker. So I will tip dealers, like most people won't. Well, I think most counters, at least serious counters, they don't want to tip a dealer, because if you're giving away your bankroll, that just kind of chips away at your EV. So you're gonna like want to keep as much as you can because you don't know if you're gonna have a losing streak. But I like to tip dealers at the end of a session, unless if I'm like maybe like trying to convince the dealer to give me deeper penetration on the cut card. Because like if the dealer's really fast and like maybe their penetration isn't that good, but I might be like, hey, like here's $10. Can you just like give me like a little bit more cards to play with?
Well,
Right.
you
But
literally asked them
yeah, you
to.
can ask them, but it might kind of give you away if you ask them. But there's some dealers, they know what you're up to if you're asking, but they probably won't care, honestly, because they're getting paid minimum wage almost all of the time. So like if someone gives them a tip for helping them out, then they're gonna know like, hey, this guy is counting, and if I cut deeper, it's better for the counter because your edge goes even higher when the dealer goes more through the shoe.
Yeah, I met some girl one time who worked at a casino near me, Saboma, and she was saying how one of the dealers, I guess, would like intentionally. I think he would when he was going to like deal out the cards, he would intentionally give good cards to people. Like he would switch it up so that they would tip him more. It was essentially like a cheater that was, it was a dealer that was like, I don't know if I'd call it cheating, but like helping out the players so they would tip him more. And so, do you ever get into situations like that where like a dealer might like intentionally? Well, it sounds like that's kind of a situation a little bit, but will ever help you out so that you tip them more type thing? That's probably pretty rare, right?
I think, yeah, there's some dealers they like, if they know basic strategy, they're allowed to tell you at most casinos because like basic strategy is still a losing game for the players. It's like the casino doesn't care. But like, yeah, I think some dealers will let you. Well, I mean, you have all the time in the world to make your decision. But like if a dealer's trying to help you out, they might be less pushy to tell you to make a decision. Like if you're holding up the table, like let's say like, oh, like dealers got an ace, like are we gonna do insurance? And so like sometimes I like to think about what I'm gonna do because I gotta look at how many cards have been dealt, and I'm like, okay, is this gonna be worth buying? And some dealers, what they'll do is they'll just like flip it over right away, like just assume no one's gonna buy insurance. I've gotten fucked so many times by that actually. Like I had like my biggest bet out possible, and like I was gonna grab chips and they already flipped the cards over. I was like, I was gonna buy that, and now I can't buy it because you already showed the card. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
so
was
that's
actually.
like,
Yeah, I
what
was
was that?
actually I was wondering about that if there was a way to like kind of. That was one thing that I was going to ask you was not only do dealers ever help out, but is there any overall, I guess you can call it even like advantage play, kind of like hole carding where it's almost like, but one thing that I was wondering about was exactly that. Basically, they call it in poker, they call it I'm like forgetting what they call it. There's like a really common term in poker for like when you kind of like, I don't know why I'm forgetting this term, but because I play poker, I know poker all terms all the time, but it's basically like if somebody like fakes like he's gonna do something to get a it's angling. So I was kind of wondering if there's a
Oh,
way to like almost like angle a blackjack dealer. Like one example. I know this sounds like super cheap, but one example would be like like if they do what you just said, where it's like they assume that like they assume you're gonna stay on like a 19 or 18, so they don't even like question it and they move on. But then you see that you lose, so then you're like, whoa, wait, like I was going to hit that or whatever. Same thing with what you just said. Like if they assume you're not going to take insurance, and then after you see that you now want insurance, like do you kind of see what I'm saying?
oh yeah, yeah. So what some dealers will do with like insurance, for example, is like, all right, they're like they like take the card, like you gonna buy it, okay, and then they flip the card over, or they'll although they will check it before. So you can't like So the dealer can't even check if they have a blackjack when you buy insurance. They'll flip the card sideways, and then they'll like do this motion like insurance. And then some people they just kind of like, so there's like I guess like a way to angle it. Like they can't help you out. Like that's cheating. Like cheating's illegal. But like they can give you all the time in the world that you need to buy it. But like some dealers are just kind of like they just want to get the rounds per hour out. Like just
Yeah, but like,
do
do you
the
see what I'm
job.
saying? Like a situation where they're not intentionally cheating, but like, let's just say they assume you're not going to take insurance, but then you realize, oh, after they show you that it's a negative result, you're like, oh, I wanted insurance type thing. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
once it's been done, it's been done.
Okay,
'Cause
you can't like
you
overrule
can't
it,
you can't. Well,
even if they didn't
there.
ask you. Like, even if
Mhm.
they just kind of like assumed whatever.
Yeah, so like if a dealer, so like the reason why you do hand motions, like you do like you tap for a hit and you wave
Yeah,
off. The reason why you do that is because they got cameras rolling at all times.
yeah,
And so like if there's like a discrepancy, they can go back and look at the footage, be like, oh, he didn't even signal. So like what like the pit boss will let you do, like they'll usually just take your bet back. Or like if the dealer screws up, let's say like the dealer accidentally skips you, or like they accidentally there I will actually tell you a story what happened one time with me. This actually did happen. So I had my hand dealt to me, and the dealer accidentally skipped me and started hitting her cards. I was like, wait, like you didn't like let me play. And so she flipped over both her cards, and I saw both the cards, right? And this is when I was gonna stay on too, because I think I had like a 17, and then the dealer had like 18. And so the pit boss was like,
this is what I'm talking about. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So like I had a 17 and the dealer had an 18. So the pit boss is like, hey, like you can take your bet back since you got skipped, or you can hit it. And so I decided to take my bet back because I was probably going to bust a 17 if I was going to hit it.
yeah.
But yeah, so that does, yeah, usually like I guess like the best way possible to, or the closest way possible you're gonna get to angling and blackjack would be like if the dealer screws up.
Yeah, well, what I was referring to wasn't even really like a screw up. Like there have been situations where
Yeah,
a dealer will just assume what I'm going to do based on how I've been playing. So let's just say
yeah,
I have a set. Let's just say I have a 17, and they know I'm playing by the book. They'll literally just kind of like, without me even doing anything, they'll just kind of skip me, assuming that I'm going to stay, or maybe even like an
yeah.
18. They'll be
A
like, I
lot
know
of
you're going to
dealers,
stay.
yeah,
A lot of
a
times
lot
they do
of
that just to speed up the game, I'm assuming.
right,
So I was
yeah,
wondering exactly what you said was, can I say, hey, I didn't even make a movement on that? Can I redo
yeah,
that?
yeah. You
And
can go
they'll,
back and say
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah, for
that
sure.
that kind of like leads to the next question, which is there any other type of, because card, even though you said card counting is easy, it's also probably hard, I would assume, like for a lot of people to do it. But is there any other advantage play type things that you could do um in the casino to, this is kind of like a random question too, but like I heard on this podcast one time, and the podcast is like a comedy podcast, so it's kind of like a joke. But they had some guy call in, and he actually figured out a way to like beat like what's that place called, like Dave and Buster's or whatever, because
Yeah,
he was so good at the games that like he would pay less for the items and he would win more.
yeah,
Like for one, I don't know if you know anything about that, but when they call that advantage play, so when you guys refer to blackjack as an advantage play, do you know anything other ways to beat the casino, or even like I know it sounds kind of funny, but like a Dave and Buster's or anything? Now that I'm actually asking that question, it just sounds so stupid, but mainly casinos. But any other advantage play ways to beat a casino? Do you know of any, or just like, I guess the best advice for someone who's like going to a casino to play blackjack or whatever, what's some good advice that they can use to kind of like beat it? Someone like me who like knows how to play by the book too, or whatever.
Right. So I guess there's many different approaches. Let's say, so I guess let's start off at the easiest thing that you can do. And that's like, if you're not a card counter and you don't care about the casino having your name, like just getting like a players club card. And what they normally do is that like they like let you get some free play on it. So like let's say like you go to Vegas or like anywhere, and like the best machines that you can play on are usually video poker if the pay tables are good. And like I used to be super into video poker for a while. And video poker, like you play by yourself and you try to draw to the best hand possible. And I forgot what the house edge is on a good pay table, but I want to say it's like 99% payback percentage, something like that. And like usually like you want to play with your player's card if you're doing that. And like there's usually like a multiplier that the casino will do like once a week. And like usually that like brings you to like a break even game with like all the points and the food comps. And like some casinos, they give you like a lot of like comps if you play a lot, or like they give you points that turn into free play, and then like you can get like free food out of it, all that stuff. And for me as a card counter, I only use the players club card at my local casino that I got a lot of hours in, because I didn't get trespassed where everyone else was getting trespassed, and I was able to play a lot. And it kind of looked like I was a problem gambler because I'd come so often, and I was getting all these points and I was getting free food, and I was actually kind of like living off of this free food for a while, because like they'd give me like usually like 2 to 6 free $25 vouchers like every 2 weeks. And like I'd usually like bring like a buddy over, and we could easily like get 2 meals at a discounted price because I have the club card and I had the voucher. And then like if it goes over, I can just use my points to pay out the rest. And like honestly, at this casino, the points kind of suck. But because I was an AP, I was able to keep generating all these points without losing my money. And so like it's just kind of like extra money. Is like I was like making like an extra like dollar or two an hour just by playing with these points. And so like even like if I had a losing streak, I was still making money from the points.
Yeah. When I was playing poker at Pachanga near me, I was doing that where I ended up having like a ton of free food comps. I think it was like even like more than I actually like wanted. And so I was like, I'd go there with a friend and be like, hey, do you want some free food? Because it's like I have all these
That's what
fucking
friends did
comps,
to me.
Yeah. And then let's see, what are some other questions? Oh yeah, as far as like the video poker goes, was there a certain strategy that you were using or to beat that? Like, is that actually beatable, the video poker?
No, video poker is not really well I don't know a whole lot about advantage play video poker, but I think it's mostly about getting points and like hoping for multiplier days where they give you an extra amount of points on certain days. But like video poker, like there's only one game that I know of that on video poker that's actually like beatable. It's like a super special one, and I don't think it's offered that much anymore. It's like a 101% payback percentage. I forgot which variation. Let me look it up real quick. I think I know what it is.
And then what were you saying the percentage was for video poker? Is it also like blackjack, like negative 1% that you lose?
Blackjack's basic strategy, it's like minus 0.5 normally.
What about video poker though?
A video poker, Yeah, there's like different variations of it. Like there's the most basic one is jacks are better. Yeah. Let me look it up. What's the
I have heard that video poker is beatable if you're doing like the exact right, making like the exact right decisions or whatever.
so like most of the games, if you play perfectly on video poker, you're gonna get like a high 99% point something payback percentage.
So yeah, like if you can go, and this is mainly for Vegas, but they don't give free drinks here. They probably don't give free drinks in Washington either, right?
No, they don't. I thought they did, but they don't.
But yeah,
that,
if you can
yeah.
if you can go in Vegas and like play for 8 hours or whatever, however long you want to play, get like free drinks, comps, and you're also like kind of barely a loser because you're playing by the book or whatever. It's not that bad. Plus, you're getting like free hotel rooms and all that.
Oh yeah.
But there's just a few more questions I have. One was I was going to ask the last guy, but I forgot on the podcast. Do you think that blackjack tournaments are beatable? Because I was kind of thinking if I play in a blackjack tournament and they're all playing badly and I'm playing by the book, I was kind of thinking maybe I would have an edge there. Do you think there's a possibility of that or no?
Ooh, blackjack tournaments. I've heard about people playing it. I don't exactly know how those run down because they like kind of like when you play blackjack normally you're playing against the casino, but like when it comes to like a tournament you're kind of like playing against everybody and you're just kind of trying to like lose the least. But like it's kind of luck when it comes to tournament. I think there are legitimate strategies when it comes to a tournament, but like I don't think a tournament is usually worth it unless the prize is like a lot of money for first place.
And then what about? But doesn't that make sense though? Like if I go to a blackjack tournament, I'm playing by the book, and like let's just say the other guys don't know what they're doing, and they suck or whatever. It seems like I would have a little bit of an advantage because of that. I could be wrong. It could be totally different, but
in the long run, yes. If everyone else doesn't know what they're doing, like if you play in a bunch of tournaments, because like people could be doing stuff not by the book and it still works out just that one instance, or even like a few times they could do the wrong thing and it works out for them.
yeah. And then what about online blackjack? Do you think that's beatable at all, or not? I would imagine it's not, right?
No,
Like there's no card counting online.
not really, because
No, okay.
so you know how I mentioned earlier how like most casinos they do 6 decks, and like the more decks there are, the harder it is for a counter to win.
Yeah.
Right. So what online casinos do is they usually play with 8 decks, and they don't have as many good rules that give you an edge. And what else? The when they cut off the how much you play, they cut it in half, which is basically unbeatable.
What do you mean? How much you play?
Like so, like normally when like let's say if you're like playing like a 6 or 8 deck game, like if they cut it off one deck, that's beatable. But if they cut it in half, like they only play like 3 decks on a shoe game, on a six deck shoe game, like that's gonna be impossible to beat or really hard to beat.
It seems like casinos. Why don't casinos just start doing that then? Like if they know that people are trying to count cards, why don't they just make it unbeatable by cutting half the desk or whatever? You know what I mean?
Because they make more money from like normal people who don't count cards more than they lose to counters. And if they cut it in half, they're gonna shuffle way more often, which is gonna lose money if they're not playing at all. Because like you want to
Okay,
just keep
but you
playing.
just go through the deck faster, right?
Yeah, you got to go through the deck faster, and you got to shuffle more, and you got to end up losing a lot of people that way. And like, it's just like, and like a lot of people are going to complain about it. They're like, oh, they shuffle way too often, and we're barely even playing.
And that's annoying when like that's the thing with poker that's kind of annoying is like they shuffle literally every hand and it's just like it can be so
Yeah.
slow, you know. But
Yeah. Yeah, I played at poker places where like they had like an automatic shuffler, and that's so nice. Yeah, and
yeah.
same with blackjack, because most casinos, they, at least the ones I played at, they hand shuffle, but some casinos they have automatic shufflers and it's ready to go, because they have one shoe that they'll play with and then they'll have another shoe underneath the table that they pull out and it's ready to, usually they have to shuffle that one if it's hand shuffled, but if it's an automatic shuffler, then they just put it in there and have it shuffle while the other shoe's being played.
Yeah,
So
why don't they just do that at blackjack? Why don't they just like constantly be shuffling? Like why don't they like shuffle one, deal one, and then have the other one just ready to go? Boom.
I'm talking about like if they have one shuffling while the other one's being dealt.
Yeah, and they just
Yeah.
constantly like it seems like they could just do that, then you wouldn't be able to count cards at all, right?
Oh yeah, so there are machines. It's called a continuous shuffling machine.
Yeah.
And like usually after like a few hands, they put all the decks back in. So it's like always shuffling. So like you never know what card's gonna come out. Yeah, that's a thing at a lot of places too.
Yeah.
Starting to become more apparent in Vegas, and I know there's a couple of places in Washington that have continuous shuffling machines. But
Yeah,
I
this
think
is kind of
because, yeah, it's because I think there's like extra regulation on those machines, and you always have to have a tech on on the on the job ready to repair it. So you got to hire somebody to fix it if they break.
yeah.
And
What about this is kind
yeah.
of a stupid question too, but what about like magic? Like, you know how like if you know how there's like people who are like really good at magic where they can just like it's like everything is like sleight of hand. Like have you
Yeah.
ever looked into that at all? Like where you can like do sleight of hand type stuff and just like trick the casino and like kind of like switch
No,
cards or whatever. No.
no, that's cheating. You
I know
can't.
it's cheating, but it's like I don't honestly really care. Like if I get away with cheating in a casino, I'm fine with it. I know that you'll be punished, but like there's so much shit that they do that like is so unfair. You know what I mean? That it's like any type of edge, I would just like. I mean, I haven't ever really cheated, but I've heard of that kind of stuff with poker where like
Oh yeah, people like do fake shuffle.
or like card up your sleeve type stuff. Like I've never done it. I'm just wondering if because I would imagine if somebody's like a good enough magician, like I forgot his name, John, what one of those Chris Angel or whatever. I'm sure that they could probably just like do shit that like the casino doesn't even catch. You know what I mean?
No, casinos they have preventative measures. Like if you're playing on a shoe game where they have the cards dealt face up, then you're not even allowed to touch the cards at all for any reason. And if you're doing a pitch game where you have to touch it, you're only allowed to touch it with one hand. And like if you like start touching with two hands, they like start yelling at you, like only one hand on the cards.
Yeah.
And
So
then
what about what's up?
oh, I was about to say in the double deck games, they usually they change the cards every 2 hours, and then they rip it and burn it. They don't even
So
let the cards get out.
so what about crazy stories? Like you said, you've never really been kicked out or anything, but do you have any other crazy like heater stories where like you just went on some? I mean, I guess that one story you had in Vegas was pretty crazy. You won 7,000 in an hour. But any other crazy stories while playing blackjack?
I've got a good amount of stories. Like I see a lot of compulsive gamblers just blow through so much money, and it's really sad to watch sometimes, because like you can't really stop someone from gambling away their life savings away.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of the worst people that you see are the elderly people. Like a lot of old people will just like they'll just like lose all their money. I remember there's this one lady, and I did a 12-hour session. And this lady had to leave and come back to her house 3 times that same day to keep getting money. And
Man.
she's like, this is like the last bit of my money. I was like, why are you still here? But a lot of casinos, they will send a shuttle bus to retirement homes right on the what's it called, Medicare check or whatever. What's it called? Social Security Day. Right on Social Security Day, they'll just
Yeah.
send a shuttle bus right when they had that money.
Oh man,
So
that's sad. But
it's
what
just
about
like
you? Like,
that.
do you have any crazy stories yourself in terms of like heaters or coolers? You know those terms, right? Heater and cooler.
A heater, like when you get heat from the pit boss, or
No, like a situation where you just ran it up, like it's a hot streak of like winning or
oh
losing, or maybe like starting with 1,000 going down to like 100 or whatever, and then going back up. Do you have any? Like you just said, you played for 12 hours, so like, do you have any
yeah,
crazy like
yeah. I was
session stories?
definitely I was definitely chasing losses that day. I played yeah, I think this all happened in like a week. So there's one day I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get like an hour or two in today. Like I'll make some money. And then like I'm like starting to slowly lose money throughout the day. And I was like, this is not going as planned. Like my bankroll is just kind of diminishing. And so like I play until like 5 o'clock that evening and I'm like down like $1,000. And like, okay, like I was up 500 and now I'm down 1,000. So I go use my food comp, get some dinner, come back. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go again. And then I played until like midnight or 1 in the morning. So I was down like about maybe like $3,000. But then I finally get the golden shoe. And then like I'm just like winning like $100 here, $150 here, accounts going high, splitting tens, going crazy. And like, all right, now I'm up $500. I'm good for the day. I'm out of here. I'm tired. But yeah, you should never play when you're tired, by the way. It's not a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I've had similar stories playing poker, and I haven't been in a while. I normally go to this casino Morongo and near me, and I haven't been in a while. Honestly, I kind of thought about going tonight just because I haven't been really in a while and
Right.
play some like limit. But I don't know if you know about poker at all, but it's like there's limit, no limit, and like the limit games tend to be just like super soft, like 3-6, 4-8 or whatever. So
Right.
I was thinking about
Like pot
going.
limit.
It's not pot limit. There's pot limit in Omaha, which is like you can only
Oh,
bet the
it's
amount that
like
the pot
standard.
is.
Right.
That's for Omaha, but for Hold'em, there's like limit and no limit. No limit, I can bet like anything at any time, and then limit you can only bet like $3 or $6 or whatever. So you get a bunch of people who are like honestly like kind of like old people who like don't really know what they're doing playing that game, and it's I mean it seems to be pretty beatable. But I had a few sessions where like I went up playing 1-2 no limit. If I would go up like $500 or something, like something around that amount, then I would like at the end of the night, like around 2 in the morning or whatever, I would bring that to the blackjack table and then take like 100 or 200 and play
Right.
that and see if I can run that up. But I had a couple of sessions where as you know, you can win a lot or lose a lot of blackjack. It's a crazy game. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
The
honest. It's
swings
like
are
the
crazy.
equivalent to like it's like the equivalent to doing like I've never done cocaine, but like I would imagine it's the equivalent to doing like cocaine or something. It's like
Honestly, that's a good analogy.
it's aggro, and especially if you're playing like heads up, which
Yeah. Yeah. The
would
swings
you
are
prefer to play
crazy.
heads up or would you prefer to have a full table or what?
Always like if I'm gonna get no heat, like if I don't need to do any cover, like 100% of the time, I'd rather play heads up. The reason being is because it goes faster, and if the count gets high, I'm gonna have more hands where I'm playing at a good count, and so like I'm gonna get like a whole lot more because like if I like play at a full table, and like let's say like I'm playing with like four other people at the table, like I could make like at a $25 table, like I could probably make like only like $10 an hour. But if I'm playing heads up, like I can make like $100 plus an hour.
Is it kind of hard to keep the track though if it's just you and the dealer? And like, is it kind of more obvious since there's nobody around you for them to see that you're like kind of like what you're doing?
I mean, yeah, you do get a more attention on you. Like even if the pit boss isn't watching, there's the camera in the sky that's gonna see everything. But like you can go as fast as you need to go. Like there's no timer on each hand you play. Like you can take however long you want to play.
Yeah. It's funny, but there's been times too when I've played once again by the book. I think that I mastered the book, which is pretty easy, you know. But there was times when I was playing heads up, like late at night, and I would either be on a cooler or a heater or whatever. And the problem that I had with the game is like the obvious problem with blackjack is I just never knew how much to bet. Like with poker, you have your hand, so you can say, okay, I want to
Right.
bet 5, 10, 15, or not bet at all and just fold. With
Right.
blackjack, the fact that you have to put out your bet first, like I'm always like, okay, I'm up like $500. Does this mean I want to like up my bet or lower my bet? Or I never really know.
Right.
So so it would be just me and the dealer heads up, and it would literally I would like I would literally have just won a bunch of money or maybe lost or whatever, and they'd be like kind of waiting on me, and I'd be like, what do I do now? How much do I bet now? You know.
Right.
But one of the last questions I had was, what do you think the state of blackjack is? Do you think that it's like once again to ask this question, do you think that it's a good game to try and get into for somebody like me? Honestly, from my perspective, and I've talked with other people about it, mostly poker players and friends and stuff, but they say it's not worth it because of the fact that the casinos will kick you out if they think that you're doing it. So have they cracked down to the point where it's just getting harder and harder, or do you think it's still beatable?
Oh, it's 100% beatable.
Yeah. And one other thing that I was thinking about too was I live near like probably 10 casinos. So if one of them kicked me out,
Right.
I'd just go to the next one. You know what I mean? And like
Right. If
what
they
I would
don't,
probably do is
yeah.
probably just go to one. I would probably switch casinos every time. And that way they
Right.
just wouldn't recognize me, you know?
Yeah, you can go in a rotation because there's some people who'll get like backed off and kicked out of a casino. But like if they don't get trespassed, if they don't have their name, like just come back in like a couple months. Or like even if they like get a picture of you or something, like you can come back in like half a year and like just hit up all the other casinos that are nearby you.
Couldn't you come in like a disguise too? Like not like an obvious disguise, but like just, like have some sort of like big wig and like put on like a mustache and a beard or just kind of like disguise yourself a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of APs that will do that. And I've suggested it to people because there's this one guy, he needed help with like getting a test out, so I helped him out. And like most counters, like they usually are like white or Asian. And so like that's like the stereotypical one. But this guy, he was like this really tall black dude with dreads. And like he's like, dude, I get backed off everywhere I go.
Oh, damn.
I was like, I didn't even think about that. Like he probably stick out like a sore thumb because like most of the counters are like described as like a nerdy white guy who's probably in college or something, like buying
Well, that's kind
in.
of
Yeah.
that's kind of like what's weird about it though. Like you wouldn't think I would think that the opposite, like they wouldn't expect him to be card counting. They would expect somebody like you to be card counting. So it's weird that they go after him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cause like I think I don't know if it's like the way he's spreading too. Cause like if he spread bigger, it might bring more attention. Cause if you go like from like a $5 bet to like two hands at like 300, that's gonna bring a lot of attention. Like that he could have, I think he, from when I did my test out, he would do like
he would kind of overbet it, so it was kind of like a giveaway. But yeah, but like if they get your picture or your ID, they can share it with other casinos. And there's databases too that some casinos participate in. And they can enter your name and put a picture of you in it. And then like other casinos can pull that up and be like, hey, like we don't want you here either. Like they can back you off before you even sit down at a table.
Yeah, like don't like. I feel like a lot of the Vegas casinos are like connected. So if you get banned from one, they'll ban you from another.
Yeah, like if you get banned from MGM property, you can get banned from all of them.
Yeah. So have you ever gone as like a team? You know how I'm sure you've heard of those like teams that go in or whatever. Have you ever done it with a friend where like you try and like signal each other or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. I had a buddy and we kind of did it when we were both trying to help each other out with like trying to get us both to the long run quicker. Like he would like sit down at a table and like send me text message if the count got to like, let's say like a 3 or something. Like we tried to do that on an 8-deck game and it turned into like me just waiting around, kind of waiting for a message. So that didn't work out. But we
How was he
ended up like,
signaling you? Was he like text messaging you?
yeah, he just like send like a quick text message.
You would just
He'd,
like look at your phone, but sometimes they don't even
Yeah.
want you to look at your phone, right?
Yeah, you're not allowed to be on your phone at the table, but like let's say like the hand is over, like you can quickly like send a text like, hey, it's like at a whatever count it is. Or like there's like one thing I try to do when I playing teams, like I would like try to like I would like make my chips flush, like have them all line up. And then so you know how like it's like a green chip would have like white and pink on it or something like that. I'd like try to line up the lines and then like I would like shuffle it if the count got high enough or something like that.
Yeah, like I had kind of like given up on learning blackjack card counting, but now that I've talked to you and the last guy, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I actually can do it, you know. But yeah. I mean it's worth a shot. And the main issue that I have is when I go, I like to play like $5 minimum, and they actually do have that, but it's like only Saturday and Sunday night near me at Morongo. And it's only for like a certain period of time. Because you know how like recently they've really upped the ante. Like the casino that I went to last, speaking of the comps, me and my girlfriend signed up and we got buy one, get one free like buffet at this casino near me. And it was like I went to go check out Blackjack, and it's like they had like one $25 table minimum, and then like I think it was like a 150, and the rest were like they had like free bet games and all that kind of stuff, the other games. And free bet is a form of blackjack though, right?
It is.
Or what is free bet?
Yeah, free bet, it's a version of blackjack, but the house edge is twice as much as regular blackjack.
How does it work? Is it the one where like I forgot how it works. I feel like I played it, but
so every single 9, 10, a hard 9, 10, and 11, it's a free double. And then every single pair except for tens is a free split.
it's one of those things where it tricks you into thinking like it's good, but it's really bad.
Yeah, because like so like I mean like if like the basic strategy for that, like you're gonna want to split and double everything. And but the dealer will push on 22. So there's like so many times where like I like split up to 4 hands and I doubled a couple of them. And like and the dealer ends up getting 22. Whereas like if I did that in like regular blackjack, like I would have won like let's say like as like a $10 original bet, like then I would have gotten like what $60, but instead I get 0. So it's like that. And then also like in like normal blackjack, if you're gonna split, like you like it's worth putting money down for. So like why would you want to do it for free at a disadvantage?
Yeah,
Does
some
that
of
make
these other
sense?
some of these other games like wait, sorry, what was that last part? It didn't make sense, the last part.
So like anytime you put down extra money in blackjack, it's when you're gonna get an advantage from it or better odds of winning in a sense. But like in free bet, like you could just get to do for everything. Like, yeah, that helps you out, but like it just kind of like it doesn't really help you out that much.
Yeah, that was my point. Like it, when I first heard about it, I was like, I could split or double anything for free. I'm like, that sounds rad, but obviously it's not. Yeah, a lot of these other games that they offer, like free bet, and then like whatever else those table games are, like whenever I've played them, they've just been so fucking like shitty. And it's like, even with blackjack, like me and my friend, we were going and playing blackjack and poker for a while, and it like just didn't even appear. Like obviously, I had good nights and I had bad nights, but some of the nights are just so fucking bad, even though it's supposed to be 50-50, that you're just like, man, this is like brutal. And like when you have one of those bad nights where you just lose every hand, and every time they show a 10 and there's just nothing you can do, it's like,
Right.
and that, yeah, that leads into the question of, have you ever gone in in poker, we call it tilt, where you just get stressed out and like you just like can't play anymore, like you start like blowing money because like you're so irritated? Has that ever happened to you, where like you just can't count anymore because like it's so like the deck's so bad that you're just like, fuck, like
Yeah, so if you're a really good counter, if like the shoe starts going into like a negative count, there's this term that we call when you step out of the shoe. It's called wonging out, because a guy named Stanford Wong, he like kind of invented this idea. Because in
I've heard
Atlantic
about that.
City, yeah, so in Atlantic City, like they had a lot of lawsuits, and they basically made it so that they couldn't back off card counters, but they made like a bunch of countermeasures to prevent card counters from playing. And so what this guy would do, he'd just like wong in, like when the count was good, and like when it was bad, he'd just go out. So like he couldn't spread, but he could just go in and out whenever it was a convenience for him. But so like, yeah, like if the shoe starts going bad, then you're gonna want to wong out, obviously. But yeah, there are counters that definitely have fallen to going on tilt for sure. We're like, oh fuck it, like I'm just gonna bet more than usual at this count, and then
Yeah,
like they like like just because the shoe is at an advantage for a player doesn't mean it's a guaranteed win. And that's a it's kind of a fallacy that a lot of card counters fall to, because they don't realize how much of an edge they have, because even when you have an edge, it can be really thin. So, but yeah,
yeah,
that's why we got bet spreads and we have to stick to them, because like if you just like going from like one hand at the table minimum to like two hands of like table max at a very low count, like you're not gonna have a lot of breathing room. So that's one thing that we try to teach each other, is to stay disciplined, and like if we get mad or frustrated, like just take a break, get some water or eat some food.
so you go as as a group with like friends or whatever, and you guys all like, or like you have friends that you talk to about it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like yeah, we
Yeah,
network. Yeah, blackjack card counters, we network a lot. And but like we avoid playing with each other at the same table,
yeah.
because
So
yeah.
how much, so okay, so you started basically this year, I think you said, what did you say, January to like April, or that you learned, and then you started playing in around what, April
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, I'd say I truly became an advantage player around April.
Okay, and so you really have only played 6 months, maybe, right? And you said you were making
Yeah.
about 100 an hour. Yeah, I definitely don't think you should quit if you're making 100 an hour. But how much did you win over that period of time, roughly?
Ooh. So if I used my bankroll to pay for a lot of bills and stuff. I should have not paid off a lot of debts all at once like I did with it. But I want to say from card counting, probably made it like an extra $15,000 to $20,000 this year. Honestly.
Damn. Yeah. If you could try and talk your girlfriend into letting you play more, I think that would be ideal. If you could, I mean, it seems like if you could prove to her that you're winning, not losing. But so yeah, I have to wrap things up here. But
Yeah.
you're in the military, right? So have you ever gone overseas or anything, or are you mainly just like stationed in your area?
No, I'm just stationed in my area.
And you're a reserve, or
I'm reserve.
but it's reserve full time?
Yeah, so I just went on orders to work on the weekdays for to maintain these vehicles at my unit, basically, because we're there only once a month and these vehicles need to be maintained weekly or daily. So
it is still full time, even though you're like reserve.
yeah, but I still have to show up at the drills that are monthly, which sucks.
Okay.
But
Well, so what's the difference between you being full time reserve and like a full time? It's the army, right?
yeah, so like
Full time army or whatever.
yeah. So the like active duty, like you're gonna get weekends off and federal holidays, and I get weekends off and federal holidays. But reserve soldiers, they show up once a month for their drill. So I also have to show up for that because I still belong to the reserve component. So
I mean, is there a difference between like someone like you who's reserve full time and somebody who is like actually overseas or whatever? Like, or could you just be overseas? You're just not right now. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, so yeah, anyone. So there's like 3 different branches, I guess, or I guess components of the army, which is the reserve, which is part of the big army. And then there's the National Guard, which is basically for the state, but it's still the army also. And then there's active duty. But any 3 of those can go overseas and get like activated onto a deployment. Or like they can get activated for like any kind of full-time position, really. And so like, how do I explain this? So yeah, basically anyone can go overseas and they'd be treated the same because we're all expected to be capable of the same missions as each other.
But like when you sign up, you can sign up for either, you can be like, I want to sign up for full time reserve, full time active duty, or the other one, National Guard, or
Yeah. So there are positions where you can sign up like full time to work for any one of these components. If you're a reserve soldier, like in my position that went into full time, like this isn't permanent. This is just like for like a few months.
so you think eventually you will go full time?
Yeah. So I am working full time right now, but I'm only doing it for like half a year.
And then what are you going to do?
And then I'm going to go back to working only once a month at my unit, unless if I reapply for these orders.
But I mean, at that point, when you go back to once a month, would you have to get like another job or?
Yeah, so like a civilian job. Yeah. I was working as a caregiver before for my civilian job.
All right. Well, thanks for your service, by the way. And
Thank you for your support.
yeah, no problem, man. And then the last question that I ask everybody is, are there any good podcasts you listen to or movies or TV shows that you want to plug? Sometimes the people that I talk to have their own podcast, and you could either go into like podcasts about Blackjack or anything that you just like, or movies and TV shows too.
Well, I don't know anyone personally with a podcast, but I know there's this podcast. It talks about all sorts of advantage gambling. There's a lot of blackjack players, but there's also like poker players that they bring on as a guest. And I forget what other games, but it's usually advantage players that they bring on, and it's called Gambling with an Edge.
Yeah, I've listened to a little bit of that one.
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah. And then what about like movies or TV shows?
I don't watch a whole lot of movies or TV shows, to be honest.
Yeah, no problem. It's kind of just like a random question that I throw out at the end, mostly just because I'm always looking for podcasts, movies, and TV shows. There's just not enough good movies and TV shows out there, in my opinion. There's a ton, but there's not enough good ones that I like to watch. So I always just tend to ask that. But anyways,
I'm on
Andrew,
YouTube.
and oh yeah, for sure. I'm more of a
always on
YouTube
there.
guy. But it's like if you get bored of something within 5 minutes, you can just shut it off and go to the next thing, you know?
Right.
All right, Andre. Well, thanks for coming on. And like I said, I hope you get back to those blackjack tables. And if I have any other questions, I guess I'll just message you on Reddit.
Yeah. Actually, I did.
Unless
just
there's
think of
anything
a-
more that you wanted to say. Yeah.
I did just think of a really good TV show. Do you have Peacock?
Yeah, we do actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you watched Mr. Mercedes?
My girlfriend did, and she liked it.
Yeah, I would
So-
recommend you watch that.
Yeah. One other one that's kind of related to that in the sense that they're both serial killers is Dahmer. I'd recommend to watch Dahmer on Netflix. Have you heard about that one?
I've heard about it, but I haven't watched it.
It's intense. It's intense, but it's good. It's probably
Okay.
the last one that I watched that's like the serial killer type that was really good. But anyways,
Okay.
yeah, thanks for coming on, and hopefully we can keep in touch on Reddit on the Blackjack subreddit. So you're still on the Blackjack subreddit a good amount, like still kind of like talking on there and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm always bitching on there at people.
What are you bitching about?
I don't know. Sometimes people just say some stupid shit on there, and like I don't know.
Are there a lot
I
of
can
people
probably
that
send you screenshots?
are there a lot of people that just don't know what they're doing who like to pretend that they know what they're doing?
Yeah, they think that like they've like cracked the code based off anecdotal evidence. I'm like, they're like, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't need to count cards. Like I can just martingale. That's so much easier.
Yeah.
It works
And
until
just-
it doesn't work.
That was one other question I asked the last guy, and I was going to ask you, but I skipped it because I feel like I already know the answer. But is there any form of betting pattern that is better than others, or do you think all betting patterns just won't work in the end?
Betting patterns don't work unless if you have an infinite amount of money, and even like tables have a maximum. So like once you get to that max, like how the hell are you gonna get past that? But even when you get past that, you need to have like an infinite amount of money. And also they only work at like a break-even game.
What do you mean by break even?
Like a 50% chance of winning, basically.
Is there any break even game? I don't think there is any break even game, is there? Unless you get to a point where you can break even at blackjack, I guess.
I think Baccarat is a break-even game, but like the casino takes money every time you win. 'Cause
Like a
it's that
rake or
even.
something?
Yeah, kind of like a rake.
Okay. So basically, unless you can find a break even game, no betting patterns work.
Nope.
All right.
Otherwise, casinos wouldn't let you do it.
Yeah, they'll stop anything that'll work. All right, Andre, thanks for coming on. Once again, I'll hopefully I'll find you in the blackjack subreddits.
Yeah, you'll probably see me there.
Yeah, or I'll hit you up after. I'll message you on there after.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
just gonna end the recording.
All right, sweet.